Good morning, Dawn.
Good morning, Liz.
How are
And good
you?
morning to, I'm good. I'm good. Liz
Good.
and I,
And good morning to everybody on Facebook and wherever else.
and
YouTube.
wherever else, if you're watching the replay or wherever it might be, we're finding that a lot of people are watching it later, because 11 o'clock doesn't always work for everybody. So 11 o'clock Eastern doesn't always work. I'm dinging like crazy over here. Sorry.
Okay.
All right.
Whew.
So great resignation conversations. Very, as we come into the holidays, right? I always find it's interesting we've done some mind mapping work with people. We've talked about decluttering, getting, how much money are you going to spend, emergency funds versus, um,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, oh, my mind just went blank. Emergency funds versus emergency credit cards. Just thinking about all those things that you do normally, but then they get heightened when you come
Yes.
into the holiday season, and especially if you're looking at making any changes in your life. So it isn't necessarily even about jumping ship, but
Yeah.
this is the time of year when people do things that are out of the ordinary.
Interruptions. They interrupt the normal patterns.
Absolutely. So what are some things you notice, Liz, when people are like interruptions that show up during the holidays?
It could be absolutely anything from, you know, um, saying yes to Christmas parties and they're an introvert and they're saying yes to more Christmas parties than they normally would,
Mm-hmm.
right? It could be saying yes to more experiences,
Mm-hmm.
um, saying yes to spending more money than they normally would. Like they might be somebody who really stays on budget with regards to their spending plan and didn't necessarily save every month for Christmas. So they're like, oh my gosh, I got to get this and this and this and this. Right.
Right.
So then wondering where that money is going to come from. And Dawn, you and I have always talked about this, but I think it's important if you're hearing this for the first time. January 19th is one of the most depressing days of the year, they have found in research. And the
Right.
reason is it's not just because it's so dark outside and everything else, but
Oh, that doesn't help.
right? And then the holidays are done. So you come off of this high of seeing everybody and having a lot of connection with friends and family, and then having to go to work, maybe starting some New Year's resolutions. But the reason that January 19th is one of the most depressing days of the year, credit card bills from Christmas come in.
Oh, right. Right.
Hmm.
And that can be problematic for people. So
It
you have
can.
and and it could be you wished you had spent more, or you wished you had spent less, or
Yeah.
you wished you had paid cash, or you wish that you had saved more, or you wished you had planned more, or you wished you hadn't been so extravagant, or whatever it is. When I think about, so Liz, when you think back to Christmas last year, do you remember all the things you bought for people? And do you remember everything that you got?
Is it wrong if I say no?
No, I
I
don't
mean,
remember
like, there's
either.
part of me that wants to be able to say yes, but the answer is no.
Right. I don't remember a lot of things. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't. I remember some of the meals. I remember, you know, I don't
Moments
even
of
remember if it's
laughter,
snowed.
experiences,
Yeah, I don't even remember.
interactions.
Yeah. So then we spend all this money trying to make sure it's the best Christmas ever. And the reality is most of us don't remember a lot of it. We remember the fights,
Hmm.
because we had some doozies because everybody came into town and we just hadn't seen each other in a long time, and it was still very COVID oriented, right? So
I
I
do
remember
remember
some.
the gifts I buy myself, though, sometimes. So I'm going to show everybody one just because it's so fun, unique, and different. We joke
Mhm,
around that we don't have crystal balls, but I bought myself one and I bought Dawn one. See?
yes. Well, so I think one of the things we talked about that we might want to talk about today is our money personalities. Liz and I are certified to work with people on their money personalities. And a money personality is really just the way that you have been trained to think about money over time from when you were very young. It's every observation you had with regard to material things. It's every conversation you heard people talk about with regard to money, about if there was a lot or if there wasn't, or maybe you heard nothing. And
Yeah.
so you had no information about money. Maybe maybe you were very poor and had to live on food stamps, and maybe you were very wealthy and but you made decisions based on all of those activities. It isn't just because you were wealthy, you decided that you're going to be wealthy. There's a lot of people who
Mhm.
have a lot of money who make a decision to be more alchemist-like or altruistic, right? And they don't want to have all of that money. And some people are very desperate for money, and they become very wealthy because they decide they want to learn from their past experiences. So
Mhm.
we're going to talk today about 8 different money archetypes.
Yeah.
And so you want to say a little bit more about our archetypes, like how do people use them so
Yeah.
that if people see them, they don't go, oh, I'm that, so that's a bad thing.
No, like the funny thing is like all of these archetypes are just information, right? It's just a starting point for noticing patterns in your life that are working or not working, right? And all of these patterns came about because they were working at some point in time for you.
Mhm.
And they may not be working at this very moment as you're trying to move forward and creating something new and different. We work with a lot of business women who are looking to launch and pivot their business. We also work with women who are looking to pivot in their lives, and money is the excuse they're using not to go after what it is that they want to do, right?
Mhm.
And the cool thing about using the archetypes is it gives insight of the obstacle that might be presenting itself because we don't always see it because it's an automatic pattern or perspective that we have, right? So the
Right.
archetypes are a really easy way to understand that. And the cool thing is all of them, all 8, have the opportunity to be wealthy, to gain wealth, accumulate wealth, and keep wealth. Part of it is just understanding the pattern that's automatic that you may or may not be seeing in your life.
Like a blind spot, right?
Yeah.
We've got lots of blind spots. Well, so since we only have a half an hour and
Mhm.
we're down to 20 minutes. Let's see
Let's do this.
if we can do this quickly, but make it be powerful for people. So
Yeah.
let's start with yours. So there's
Oh, that's
everybody
mine.
has 3. If there's you usually have 3 that are the top. We have a quiz, by the way. We'll put the link in the oh my
On our
gosh, I don't
website,
have
I'll
any
finish the
words
sentences for
today.
Dawn.
Yes, so a link is in the for the quiz. Anyway, you have 3 that tend to dominate at the top. So
Mhm.
Liz's number 1 is
Teddy bear. I'm just kidding. It's nurturer. So the nurturer is just like it sounds, right? This is how we describe many moms today, right? We put the needs of our children and our loved ones first before ours. And the nurturer, one of the things that is really important, they often feel kind of like at this crossroad, like, oh my gosh, I want money for this and this. And they sometimes get in a struggle with regards to how to balance and make that work, right? Because they want to make sure that the money is there for their children and for their spouses and everybody else's agenda.
Mhm.
So that's some of the
And
struggles that they face.
well, and at work, they often will have trouble saying no to people,
Yeah.
right? So if you're running a business or you're thinking about running a business and you don't have a strong capacity for saying no, or in your decision making, every idea looks like a good idea. A nurturer will want to nurture everything to see what grows and not say no.
Yeah, that's very true.
All right. So Liz, we're
And
gonna
the nurturer won't always charge her worth because if she's her own business owner,
right,
she can anticipate what everybody needs. And
right.
you need this, so I can't charge you more than you can pay.
Yeah. So
And who
we're
knows
gonna
if they can pay, right?
right, you don't know until you ask.
Right.
But we have these assumptions, right?
Mhm.
All right. So Liz, your second one is the connector.
That's the armadillo, right?
Armadillo, and it's the
Ah, the
connector.
connector.
The armadillo has a little shell.
So the armadillo is really good about protecting themselves and protecting their loved ones. And with regards to that, it's really about the connections they make a strong interweb of kind of that protection. Um, if you
Mhm.
think about a connector, we often don't want to ruin the relationships that we have over something silly like money. And when you come to right, so if I go out to dinner as a connector and somebody forgot their wallet, I'm gonna be like, I'll pay, no big deal, right? And then
Mhm.
they're like, oh yeah, I'll pay you back. Well, until now, there's Venmo and stuff like that, right? So they can pay you right there on the spot. But historically speaking, that wouldn't always be the case. And I'd forget that they owe me money. Or if I remembered, I didn't want to ask them because I didn't want to ruin the friendship because maybe there's a reason they can't pay me. That's also the nurture.
Right. No, but you're right. The connector, it's all about the relationship,
Right.
right? So,
And the relationship is more important than the money. Boom. Whether you're in business or whether it's a personal thing, right?
mhm. So it's hard to sell to people, right? You may have 10,000 connections.
Because they're all my friends.
I know you don't want to sell to your friends, although they're the ones, not you, but a connector doesn't always want to sell to friends because they don't want to wreck that relationship, right?
That's right. And if you do, if you're a connector and you're in sales, by the time that somebody onboards, you got to give them a white glove experience. You may get bottlenecked in the onboarding because you want to give everybody the white glove experience. So the process will be a little slower to onboard. And
Mhm.
two, the other thing is everybody's a friend by the time they get onboarded.
Right. It's hard to scale. It's really hard to scale.
Yeah.
You'll recognize connectors if you're on Facebook and you or someone in your world says, I'm cleaning out my Facebook. Anybody who's not been responding to me in a while, I can only handle so many people and manage those
Yeah.
relationships. So I'm going to not talk to the people anymore who don't
Aren't talking to me.
talk to me on a regular basis. All righty. So
Is that a squirrel?
it's the squirrel.
So this one's accumulator. I'll go ahead and talk about the accumulator too, because it is another one of mine. I have four that are kind of tied near the top, and the accumulator is up there as well. All of my training in the financial industry has been very much like the squirrel or the accumulator, also the ruler, but that's a for another time. So if we sit there and think about the squirrel, what does the squirrel do? The squirrel gathers nuts, right? So
Mhm.
the squirrel gets out there, it plans for today, it plans for tomorrow. There are certain rules the squirrel has to follow to survive the winter. It goes and finds the nuts and it eats some and then puts one or two away for the future. These are the rules that the squirrel follows. It's kind of like this is the box that it plays in. Well, same with the accumulator with regards to their financial situation. There are lots of financial literacy puzzles and formulas to figure out. And then once they figure them out and they do the research and then translate it to their own personal situation, that's their box, right?
Mhm.
So this is the box that they play in, and they don't really go outside of that box because this is what's been tried. It is what is true, and it's what is proven. So
Mhm.
if you're an accumulator and you're a business owner, a lot of times you may miss out on opportunities because you haven't, done the research 10 times to find out if it's worth actually taking that first step. And then by
Right.
the time you do the research, the opportunity is gone.
Mhm.
So
And
not to say it
and
can't change, but yeah.
no, but the cool thing about squirrels and accumulators is that if you need somebody on your team who understands rules and is disciplined, there's a level of
Mhm.
discipline in this archetype that it doesn't come as naturally for me. The accumulator for me is way down on the list. So you have all of these archetypes you'll see yourself in, but some are more dominant. And for me, the accumulator, the rule follower, is much further down the list. So if you have big ideas, but you're having trouble implementing things, you find yourself an accumulator who understands planning and processes and projections, things of that nature.
Right. How to align the money with the big dreams so you don't
Right,
run out. Mhm.
right. So then
It's all
I
you.
I need an accumulator because this is the Roadrunner. You guys might recognize the Roadrunner. So this is the Maverick. It's boop, gone. Here I am, gone. And he would think just as complicated things up as the coyote. Like he could get through all of the traps. He figured out how to get through all of the coyote's traps. He was never caught. Right? He could see what was happening and find a way around it. He could anticipate the issues. He could see the problems in 3D, and then he would just jump. He didn't think about it, right? As he's approaching it, he could see what was going on. He could make the adjustment and then be on his way. So a maverick loves to take risks, loves the excitement of the risk, loves the complicated nature of the risk, but they get bored very easily. And so
Yes.
if you have maverick tendencies, you're going to tend to keep jumping into things without
Right.
always having a safety net. You just trust that it's going to work out. So you're okay with your bank account doing this because you know if there's a down, there's an up. If there's a down,
Yeah.
there's an up. There's a down, you know, and mavericks often are thinking of ideas that a lot of people can't even hear. Think about Elon Musk and Tesla going to Mars and things of that nature. And Elon wasn't able to talk about those very well. He had to find people who were more
Mhm.
conservative and could speak to a broader audience to get him the money that he needed to make it happen. Because it
Right.
always looks like a Maverick's always out on the skinny edge, and people are afraid of falling off the cliff. So you need an intermediary to hold the Maverick on the ledge, right? And then to gather other people to hold the rope. All righty. So then you
Mavericks
have,
do really well being paired up with somebody to create a foundation so they can do what they do best. Yeah.
right, right. You need like a tether of some sort. Now, this is another one of mine, and this is also one of yours, Liz,
Yeah.
right? The ruler. So the ruler is someone who can see the big picture, right? Can see all the pieces. Think about it like a kingdom. You've got the people who are working, you've got government, you've got retail, you've got all of the different pieces of the puzzle, and you can see everything that needs to happen. You're not necessarily in the day to day, and you're also thinking about the future. What else do I need to bring in to satisfy my people, to keep my people happy, to keep my people healthy? So someone who is a ruler operates well in a bigger environment. So entrepreneurs and rulers, they often are thinking big, but they don't know how to get things done at the ground level unless they can build a team, unless you have enough money to build a team who actually does the work, the people who
Right.
become your advisors, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But a ruler is a very important person to have on your team if you're not the ruler.
Yeah, but the
So,
ruler sometimes, as well as the accumulator, can really get stuck on saying yes to some things because they're
right.
so worried about providing
Mhm.
for everybody in the community that they can't always say yes to certain things, like having fun. Because they're like, ooh, the
Right.
resources are really set up for everybody to have this, this, and this. So spontaneity and fun may be hard for the rulers sometimes.
Yeah, and you know what? They do a lot of accumulating of things quite often,
Hmm.
not like an accumulator, but if you think about it in real life, when a ruler of one country is trying to take over another country, or the CEO of a big corporation is trying to buy up all the competition. They don't like competition. They operate alone. Mavericks operate alone, right?
Hmm.
They have to have people around them, but they are the star, right? They are center stage. So that's important to remember. And this guy is also center stage. I mean, right?
Right.
Pink flamingos. So this is my third. So I'm maverick, ruler, celebrity. So a celebrity, has to have her people, right? People who are celebrities in the pandemic, it's been really hard for them because they don't have their people around. And so then they spend money in crazy ways to try to feel better about themselves. It's all about status for someone. Have I got the best company? Have I got the best policies? Am I making the right amount of money? Do I look the part? There's a lot of that goes on. And while it's cool to have a celebrity also knows how to have their people take action, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you're
Mhm.
into a fundraiser, you get a celebrity on your team
So
because they
powerful.
say,
Mhm.
hey, people, we're doing this GoFundMe. We need $10,000 by Tuesday. And it
Go do
happened,
it.
right? So
Because people kind of like they're magnets. People want to be around them.
absolutely. But so you can tell though, they need people to get things done. And so they're going to overspend to make sure that their status is appropriate,
Hmm.
right? Okay. So Liz, here's a couple more. Our ostrich.
Ostrich.
What do they
Ostrich, what do?
do?
They bury their head in the sands.
Head in the
Okay, so
sand.
here we go. This is one of my top ones. So my romantic and my accumulator often have fights in my head. Why do they have fights in the head? The accumulator is about the rules and balancing all the checkbooks, but the romantic is about experiencing life to the
Mhm.
fullest. right? That means I want to see it, I want to taste it, I want to sense it, I want to be it. I want to have really nice dinners and wines and cheese, and I want to have experiences of fly to New York and go shopping for the weekend, whatever it is, right? A romantic wants to experience life to the fullest, and it's in some regards, it might have been making up for a lost attention of love that they had for, as a child. So they're bringing it all to themselves and like, oh, I deserve
Mhm.
this, I deserve that, I deserve this. But it's also what life is about, right? We're here to live life to the fullest. So, no judgment with regards to how you decide you're going to live your life, but there has to be some sense of, where's the money going to come from, right?
Right.
You can't spend more than you have. There's an interesting article every year that comes up on that, right?
So then you find a connector or an
A
accumulator,
squirrel.
right? You find an accumulator who can help you with your rules and get you all the money that you need to keep your head
Or
in the
you turn
sand.
on your accumulator
Right. You could turn on your accumulator.
and now you have a
Absolutely.
partnership.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right. Alrighty. And then the unicorn.
Mm.
I love unicorns. They have a big
Okay,
dream.
this is
Oh,
so important because Donna and I are both mission driven people, about different things, and that's how Shimula is born. But deep down, it's really about helping people, live to their fullest potential. And that's what we're all about. And that's what the alchemist is about. And that's what the unicorn is about, right? If we think about alchemy and alchemists, it's really about transforming the world to make it a better place.
mhm.
And when you sit there and meet people like that, they often have one trait in common with regards to money. They love it and they hate it. So
Right.
they love it because of what it can do, right? You need money as a resource and a tool to create some of the things in life that are being created. But you also hate it because you need it. There should be
Right.
a different way. And there are those that are really committed to that mission, sometimes will find a different way, but have to come around to some conversation with regards to this love-hate relationship with money, because there are some easier ways if you get the relationship to money in a healthier status.
Right. Because accumulators, or excuse me, alchemists just really wish people would do the right thing.
Hmm.
Right. If we just did the right thing, we wouldn't have dirty water, we wouldn't have air pollution, we wouldn't have people that were starving, we wouldn't have um, rape, we wouldn't have, there's a whole laundry list of things, of
Starving
what if
people in the world, right?
yeah, if we just did the right thing. The only thing is, not everybody's point of view about what's the right thing is the same.
Mhm. Right.
And so what happens is, like you said, the alchemist needs to come to some terms with money. Even Mother Teresa, who we think about, being like one of the most popular alchemists, or Gandhi, right? And I think about it, I don't think about it because they're religious, but because their mission was so focused on people, lifting people
Serving.
up.
Hmm.
Yeah. But even they needed money to survive. They needed
Yeah.
money to feed their people. They needed money to take care of their themselves, right? And their transportation. Gandhi didn't get around the world by walking,
Yeah.
right? Somebody was bringing money or transportation to get him to the places he needed to go. Mother Teresa had a lot of money at the end. She used only what she needed. A lot of people contributed, but
Hmm.
there were millions of dollars at the Vatican from the work she did, and she just used what she needed in the moment because of her goals and her objectives. So anyway, alchemist, it's really great. And we often find college students are alchemists. They have big dreams.
Hmm.
So if you have a college kid, chances are they're an alchemist, plus they're an accumulator. They're
Accumulator.
good at rules. They understand how to get a good grade, right? So now they've got a dream and they're trying to get a good grade. So they're
Hmm.
trying to balance dreaming with rules, and they get pretty good at the rules, but sometimes the dreaming goes away. And then they're often usually a connector because they want to be with people. It's that time when they're learning how to be with each other. So you'll have connecting. They don't want to screw up those relationships because it's all about who you are as a human being growing up, right? And now you've got a bunch of rules to follow, which have an impact on your connections. So if your friends start doing things that are illegal or inappropriate, or they're stretching the boundaries, your accumulator has trouble, right? But you can imagine how all of these three work together, and it's quite common when we find that. So
if you sit there and think about the holidays or whatever, just notice, right, what's coming up. Sometimes the romantic will be like, oh, we all deserve this, right? But
right.
maybe the accumulator's buying stuff and it's like, oh, maybe I should return this. The nurturer, right? Oh, like it really, the accumulator might get really clear of like making a list and checking it twice, making sure that nobody, they're not spending more money than they have. The nurturer may be like, oh, we really need to buy some nice gifts for the kids because it's not normal with everything in the pandemic, and I'll just return my gifts.
Right. To take care of other people.
To take care of other people. So just notice what's going on. Reach out to us because, there's no judgment how you spend your money. That's not it. It's just recognizing the pattern and then going, oh, I wonder if this works for me. Does it work for me in
It's
my
when you
personal
feel
life?
bad. It's when you feel bad about the decision you made. Mavericks make the jump. They pay for it. Don't think twice about it. But if a connector spends that same amount of money and feels bad about it, then it's an opportunity to explore something.
And they may take a while to try and overcome it and get back on track. Reach out to us. This is what we do for business owners all the time. We help them recognize the patterns that are keeping them stuck because they don't necessarily recognize it.
Right.
And how it's the accumulator, or how it's the nurturer, how it's the connector that is making the decisions when they just need to bring forward a different skill set at that point in time.
Right. So you can, we'll put it in the chat, but it's shimula.com to take the quiz. We'll put the link in if you want to just schedule some time to talk about whatever's going on in terms of the Great Resignation. What's your plan? What's your vision? Where are you headed? All of our conversations like that are free. You don't have to worry about like, oh my God, what are they going to cost us? Because that's another money conversation to be thinking about, which is driving that. If you're like, I don't know if I should call because they might charge me money, and I don't know if I, whatever that sounds like.
I like to talk. I'm a connector, so reach out.
Yeah. So anyway, so give us a shout, and we'll also put a link in. You'll be able to watch this, but we have another video as well of this particular conversation that gives some different angles on the various archetypes. But anyway, it's Thursday, and Liz, see you back here tomorrow. No, you're not here on Fridays. It'll just be me.
Actually, that little mastermind has ended, but I did want to mention, if somebody wants to come, we've had lots of people want to practice mind mapping. We're doing how to mind map with your finances next week for an organization that's near and dear to our hearts. So we'll put that link as well in the chat if anybody wants to register.
That sounds great. All right. Bye, Liz. See you next time.
Bye.